Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. With most of us spending multiple hours each day on the web, myself included, it's safe to say the internet knows a lot about us. Unfortunately, data breaches are becoming increasingly common, and identity theft is rampant. That's where Surfshark comes in handy. Surfshark is a VPN that makes online privacy easy for everyone, and can help secure your digital life by hiding your IP address and encrypting your personal information, ensuring that nobody can get their hands on it. One of my favourite things about Surfshark is that unlike other VPNs, it can be used on as many devices as you like, all at the same time, so you're always protected, no matter where you are or what device you're using. One subscription, unlimited use, total peace of mind. Surfshark offers 24/7 live customer support and a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you've really got nothing to lose. So, if you're like me and you want to access the internet securely and privately, avoid targeted ads, and get better prices while shopping online, then make sure to go to surfshark.deals/masquerade or click the link in the description. Enter the coupon code MASQUERADE and you'll make an 83% saving, and Surfshark will even throw in one extra month for free. It really does pay to be a horror fan sometimes. Number 1. Links to all of the clips used in this video can be found in the description below. The footage on screen was taken on a ride-along with California Highway Patrol Officer Craig Payer. In the short documentary, Officer Payer gives advice on how to stay safe when stranded on the road. Now, there's nothing inherently creepy about the footage itself, but the whole thing becomes a whole lot more sinister when you hear about the backstory. The year was 1986. Cara Evelyn Knott was a student at San Diego State University. On the night of December 27th, she disappeared while driving home from her boyfriend's house in Escondido, California. The very next day, her remains were found at the bottom of a ravine below a 65-foot bridge near an abandoned off-ramp. Her vehicle, a white Volkswagen, was parked on the bridge above. She was just 20 years old. A pretty open and shut case, most people thought at first. She had simply parked up on the bridge and decided to end it all, jumped down into the ravine. Well, since we're talking about it on this channel, you know that's not the case. In reality, her life had been ended by Craig Payer. The same Craig Payer you're watching in this video clip. While on duty, he'd pulled her over in an isolated area near an abandoned bridge. He approached her vehicle, and things started off pretty routinely. Then, Payer began acting inappropriately, flirting with her and trying to touch her. When Cara said that she was going to report him for his actions, he became aggressive and grabbed her. She fought back against him, scratching the side of his face. In a blind rage, Payer took out his flashlight and smashed Cara over the head with it. It's unclear whether Payer was still seeing red after that, or whether he simply panicked, knowing the repercussions of his actions. But whatever the case, he then took a rope and wrapped it around Cara's neck, pulling tightly on it until he snuffed all of the life out of her. He then threw her remains over the edge of the bridge. 2 days later, KCST TV made this report about the Cara Knotts case.
Step up in front of the patrol car.
Because if you do decide to walk, the CHP says you never know who you may meet along the road.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be raped, robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed. Once you get in that other person's car, you're at their mercy.
By sheer coincidence, the officer assigned to be interviewed by the news team was Payer, the man who, in reality, was the one who had taken Cara's life. Not that anybody knew that at the time, of course. If you look close at the footage, you can still see the scratch marks on the side of his face. What must have been going through his head while they were filming him? Perhaps a mixture of primal fear and twisted excitement. Who knows? In the end, this very interview proved to be Payer's undoing. Just after the segment aired on TV, nearly 24 calls were made to the authorities. they were all from women who had been harassed by Officer Paya in the past. You see, Kara wasn't the only woman Paya had pulled over. He had actually made a habit of trying to pick up women this way. Kara was just the first who threatened to report him to his face, and the first to physically fight back. Some of the other women had lodged complaints in the past, told Paya's superiors about how he had unlawfully pulled them over, and then brushed their cheeks and stroked their hair, and made lurid comments about them. But because of Paya's good reputation, those complaints fell on deaf ears. Well, with such a multitude of calls, Paya became the prime suspect in the case very quickly. His squad car was searched. In the back, investigators found a rope that still had human skin attached to it. It was the one he had used to end Kara's life. An unusual gold fibre, which matched with a shoulder patch worn by Officer Paya, was also found on Kara's remains. His logbook was also full of obvious falsifications, and, in the end, he got caught in a tangled web of lies. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. He's since been denied parole 3 times. He'll next be eligible for parole in 2027. He'll be 77 years old. The reason for all of the parole refusals? Lack of remorse. See, at the time of the investigation, reliable DNA testing wasn't available. Paya has always claimed to be innocent. In more recent years, he's been given the opportunity to prove that by submitting his DNA for testing to see if it matches with that found at the scene. If he truly is innocent, that would exonerate him. He has continually refused to submit his DNA. It's truly eerie to watch this clip and listen to Officer Paya giving advice on how to stay safe, knowing that in reality, he was the one who had committed this unspeakable act only 2 days prior. Number 2. This next clip has been circulating around the internet for the past month or so. I'm sure you're all familiar with doorbell cameras these days. Well, the following video was recently captured on a Ring home security camera in the middle of the night when the system detected motion. While the occupants are sleeping, an older woman with a blade in her hands slowly approaches the front door of a suburban home. She seems extremely unsure about the whole situation and holds the blade almost ritualistically in her hand at points. Luckily, nobody answered the door. Now, the exact backstory to this clip remains unknown, as nobody's been able to identify the woman. However, the reality of the situation is far more likely to be tragic than sinister. The woman shows signs of late-stage dementia. You can see it through her actions. That night, she was likely suffering from a psychotic episode. She found herself at someone's door with a blade in her hand, but didn't know why she was there or what she intended to do. Still, if somebody had come to the door that night, there's every chance she would have used her weapon. Hopefully this woman got the help she needed before hurting herself or others. Number 3.
Thank you. And welcome to the dating game. And we'll get right underway. It's time to meet our first 3 eligible bachelors for game number 1. And here they are.
Depending on your age, you may or may not remember the dating game. It was a show that primarily aired in the 70s, but had a few additional runs that saw it revived for a short period in the 80s and 90s. The rules of the game were simple. 3 anonymous, eligible bachelors would sit behind a wall, and a woman would ask them silly, sometimes risque questions. At the end, she'd pick one of them to go on an all-expenses-paid date with. Simple, good fun. In one episode that aired back in 1978, a charismatic, handsome man appeared as one of the contestants, Rodney Alcala. He answered all the questions in a cheeky, tongue-in-cheek manner, and the female player, Cheryl Bradshaw, went on to pick him as her date. Little did she, or indeed the nation, know just what kind of guy Rodney Alcala was. A volatile psychopath. By the time he appeared on the show, he'd already taken the lives of at least 5 people, one of which was the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. After filming, he'd go on to take the lives of many more. You see, Rodney Alcala had a secret pastime. He liked nothing more than travelling around the good old US of A, forcefully having his way with women, and then ending them. His preferred method? Strangulation. In 1979, Robin Samso, who was just 12 at the time, disappeared somewhere between Huntington Beach and her ballet class. Her remains were found 12 days later in the Los Angeles foothills. A sketch of a man who was seen approaching Robin on the beach was drawn up, and Alcala's parole officer recognized who it was immediately. A storage locker in Seattle that belonged to Alcala was searched. Inside, investigators found Robin's earrings. Alcala's reign of terror finally came to an end when he was apprehended for Robin's demise. In court, Rodney Alcala acted as his own attorney, like many self-assured psychopaths do, as they have a tendency to overestimate their abilities and intelligence. He even interrogated himself in front of the jury for 5 hours, asking himself questions in a deeper than normal voice, and addressing himself as Mr. Alcala. Well, his weird strategy failed spectacularly. He was sentenced to the electric chair. In the end, it came to light that Alcala had taken the lives of at least 8 people, although the true number could be as high as 130. Why such a high upper limit? Because a discovery was made by the investigators. For years, Alcala had been going around telling people that he was a photographer, and that's how he was able to lure so many of his victims to secluded places. He used the promise of a professional photo shoot. A portfolio of over 1,000 pictures that Alcala had taken was found. Inside were the pictures of hundreds of different people, many of them without clothes. At least 6 families have come forward saying they recognize loved ones in the pictures who disappeared years ago and were never found. It's strange watching this dating game clip nowadays. Alcala comes across as incredibly normal on camera, likable even, and most people would agree that he was the most charming and charismatic of the 3 contestants, at least in the traditional sense. You would never guess what he had done in the past, and what he would go on to do after filming. It just goes to show that you should never judge a book by its cover. True evil can appear in all sorts of disguises. Thankfully, Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman in the episode who picked Alcala as her date, didn't end up going out with him after all. After filming, she said that he had a creepy vibe about him. Her intuition may have well saved her. If she had gone on a date with him, who knows what may have happened.
Is your date, and I want to tell you something about him, Cheryl. He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with a 1 answer. Well, as far as I can see, Cheryl and Rodney, it looks like the 2 of you may be involved in some sort of...
Number 4. July 27th, 2007, Phoenix, Arizona. A police chase was taking place after a man stole a city truck. Covering the pursuit live were 2 stations, KNXV-TV and KTVK. Their helicopters were circling above the suspect's vehicle, keeping a close eye on the action on the ground. Then, suddenly, disaster struck.
Okay, now he's jumped into another vehicle.
Okay.
All right, they're closing in. Looks like they've...
Oh, jeez.
We're gonna pull out. We don't know what has just happened right there. It looks like the police have closed in on him. We don't know what exactly has transpired.
The 2 helicopters collided in mid-air, costing 4 people their lives. The 2 pilots and the 2 photographers on board. Fortunately, nobody on the ground was hurt. In this live broadcast, the anchor does a great job at maintaining her composure, as someone on board the helicopter can be heard screaming in her ear, likely a colleague that she spent a lot of time with in the past. Approaching the area at the time was a third helicopter, operated by KSAZ. In this footage, you can hear the reaction of Don Hooper, the reporter on board, who just witnessed the collision. He knew and was friends with all of the people who he'd just seen perish right in front of him. You can truly hear the panic and distress in his voice.
Who else? Channel 3, I don't know who else was. Stand by. It looked like Channel 3, and I don't know the other helicopter, possibly Channel 15. Oh my God. Oh man, okay. 12, I got you inside. I'm just off your nose. Yeah, I'm good. I just watched that whole thing. I'm good. I'm off your nose. I'll get back ready. I think it was Scott.
Number 5.
Help, please. Please help.
This last video clip was once again captured on a Ring doorbell camera. The footage was captured back in November, but didn't become public until a few weeks later. It's unsettling to say the least. In the clip, a girl holding a flashlight approaches a house in Harriet Creek Ranch, Texas. She doesn't realize the house is unoccupied. The authorities have been notified about the footage and are currently trying to identify the girl in the video. We don't know who or what she was running from, but her fear is palpable. Hopefully she's okay. Hey guys, Lazy here, and thank you very much for listening. Sorry for the long wait for this video, but in my defense I do have a good reason for the delay. I've actually just moved to Japan, so it's taken me a little while to get set up here and get everything ready, but now we're back on track and back to making videos. If you enjoyed this one, then please smash that like button or I'll smash you. Leave a thumbs up and all that good stuff, and make sure you're subscribed. Before we end this video, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon, especially my biggest supporters: Alba Medrano, Alex Greensall, AnimeWimp, Connor Louthan, Crawford K McDonald, Crazy MaskParade, Danny Elk, Darius Saffaie, Gina Valera, Infamous-senpapi, Kelly Rocco, Martin Vatland, Kelly Rocco again, Monica Mendoza, Mystic the Manakete, Nadine, Philip Westre, Procupidine Natter, Sarah Ramirez, Sieg, Carla, and Sloane Crawford. Finally, I'd just like to say one massive, huge thank you to Joey Hatfield. Seriously man, I really appreciate your support. Well, that about wraps things up for this episode, guys. So until the next time, you will stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark.